Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Williard, and today we're going to talk about respiration. So I have a friend, and his name's Bob, and he has a really important question, which I'm sure several of you have as well, and that is, what is cellular respiration? Why do we need it? Why is it important? And I'm really glad that Bob asked this question because it's vital for life, how you live, why you live. It's about a lot of things, but one of the really important things is respiration. So let's look at things that you do every day that are actually a part of respiration. Okay, so Bob, he's going to need two things for cellular respiration to occur. The first is glucose, which he's going to get from his food, right? He got a combo at McDonald's, looks like maybe a McChicken, some fries, some Coke, whatever. He needs food, and your body's going to break down that food into glucose, so that you can use it to make energy. You need energy at all times, even when you're sleeping, even when you're just sitting down taking notes. Okay, and oxygen. We all know that we need oxygen. We breathe it in every day. If you aren't breathing in oxygen, then you can't live. So these two things we do all day. We eat, we breathe. That's respiration. But what are we making in respiration? Okay, we're going to make carbon dioxide. That's what we exhale. Remember, it's kind of like the opposite of plants. They take in carbon dioxide. They let out oxygen. We're the opposite. We're also going to make what's called ATP. That's the form of energy we use. Plants have glucose. They have starch. We have ATP. And then we also do actually make water as a byproduct as well. Think of tears and sweat and urine and those kinds of things that we get rid of. So let's actually look at your graphic organizer and kind of look at the formula of this, but I just wanted to give you a quick, simple, brief overview that respiration really isn't that complicated. So here's your graphic organizer. At the top, you're going to have all things require energy at all times. It doesn't matter, like I said earlier, if you're sleeping, if you're sitting and taking notes. No matter what, you always need energy, and this energy is going to be converted inside of our cells. Your heart's always got to be beating. You've still got to breathe. If you're taking notes, you're still moving your hand to write. All of those things require energy. There's two types of respiration. The first we're going to talk about is what was just mentioned with Bob, and that's cellular respiration. This is also known as aerobic because it requires oxygen. You may have heard the term aerobic before. When you think about aerobics, like a type of exercise. Well, when you're doing aerobics, like, some kickboxing or stair aerobics, you need a lot of energy, but you also need a lot of oxygen. Your heart rate increases and your breathing rate increases so that you can get that oxygen to your cells. So cellular respiration, you have to have oxygen for. It's what we do every day. It's why we breathe in oxygen. This is going to take place in a part of the cell, just like photosynthesis took place in a part of the cell. So is respiration. It's going to take place in what's called the mitochondria. And every glucose molecule is going to make about 36 ATP molecules. Remember, ATP equals energy. ATP equals energy. So taking all of this into consideration, we can now look at what the formula for respiration is. Remember, we have our reactants and we have our products. So the two reactants, the things that we need, those things Bob had to take in were food, which he got glucose and oxygen. So we need glucose. Remember, that's C6H12O6. We need we don't need carbon dioxide. I'm thinking about plants. We need oxygen. Oxygen, got to breathe in oxygen, or O2. We're going to take those things in to produce carbon dioxide, which we're going to exhale because we don't need carbon dioxide. Water and ATP. Remember, ATP is just energy, and we get 36 from cellular or aerobic respiration. We have to eat, we have to breathe in order for us to get energy. So what happens when oxygen is not present? So this could be us, like when we're exercising or under a lot of stress and we're not able to get as much oxygen to our cells as we need. Or we could be talking about organisms that just don't need oxygen to live in general. And you still can make energy, it's just not nearly as much. So this is called fermentation, also known as anaerobic respiration. Remember, a or an in front of a word means not or without. So this does not require oxygen to happen. And it's not going to take place in the mitochondria. It's going to take place in the cytoplasm of the cell. And over here, with cellular respiration, we get 36 ATP molecules. With anaerobic respiration or fermentation, we only get 2 molecules. So for us as humans, we need a lot of energy, and 2 ATP molecules is not going to cut it for a long time. And there's 2 types of fermentation. The first is lactic acid. The second is alcoholic. We're going to talk about lactic acid first. That's what we do as humans. So when we don't have a lot of oxygen available, so let's say we're working out really, really hard, we're breathing hard, but we're not getting enough oxygen to our cells because there's only so fast that you can breathe. You start to feel that burning sensation. That's lactic acid building up in your muscles and causing fatigue because you're only making 2 ATP molecules at once. And in addition to carbon dioxide, you're also making lactic acid, so that's what makes it burn. If you're doing a ton of crunches or lifting a lot of weight and you're feeling the burn, it's you starving your muscles of oxygen, not being able to make as much energy. That's why you can't work out forever. You eventually get fatigued. Then alcoholic fermentation is what organisms like yeast do, and instead of just carbon dioxide, they actually produce alcohol. So this is how beer and wine are made. So in this particular picture, you have yeast and apple juice kind of down here in this little bit of a container, and if you actually mix those together, the balloon will inflate because it's producing carbon dioxide, and we're actually going to do a lab like that a little bit later today, and we're going to see what happens if you mix certain things together, because just because they don't need oxygen, they still need this glucose, okay, to make that ATP, to make energy. So that's the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. As you can see, aerobic respiration is a lot more effective than anaerobic. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you learned something new.